Hello, friends. Welcome. Another edition of 18 Minutes with 180 Markets. Offense and defense. That's what we like to see in companies, when you can win in either direction. And that's what's on store for us today, because we have with us Dart Mining's and its managing director, James Chirnside. And what's really interesting about Dart is not only is it a gold company, but also we don't think people know enough about the other products in their portfolio, including lithium and other highly sought after materials. And with us today, again, is James to talk all about that. With that introduction, James, welcome to 18 Minutes with 180 Markets.
Thanks very much, Greg. It's great to be here.
Hey, James, everybody's got a story. Can you just tell us in a couple of minutes about yourself?
Well, you know, Greg, you're not meant to talk about yourself for too long, and I promise that I won't. Look, I started out as a commodity trader, funnily enough, with a company called Bunge, who are still one of the largest commodity traders around today. I then worked for a commodity trading company on the London Metal Exchange. I've moved into fund management. I moved in resources fund management, and then about 6 years ago, I thought I'd jump the fence and I joined the Dart board, and I run the company now, and it's very exciting. I love it.
Yeah. And in just a moment, if I can for a second, that is a huge move from the corporate side to the operations side. If you just have any, in just like 1 minute, maybe tell us a little bit about that move. What have you learned?
Yeah, well, big question, but I have pondered that before. And I think for me, firstly, I'm a curious person, and I like to work out how things tick. And I think on the operational side of things, having spent so much time on the financial side, it's been a breath of fresh air. It's really interesting. I think if there's one thing I've been left with, one reflection that I've been left with over that, is that there is still a very large gap of knowledge between the operational side of the businesses in exploration and in mining more broadly, between that and the financial markets. I think there's a massive chasm of misunderstanding in many ways.
Yeah, and hopefully you can bridge that gap, if you will.
I'll do my best, but no guarantees on that, I'm afraid.
Okay, well, turning more specifically to Dart, maybe let's start out with the gold. Obviously, that's what the company is best known for, but I absolutely want to make sure we also focus on your other products as well. Can you just tell us a little bit about your gold products, what you have on store, and also maybe just like what would you expect to see over the next couple of years?
Yep, sure thing. Look, the way we view our exploration portfolios, we split it in three. So we have orogenic style deposits of gold. We have porphyry, copper gold, and we have what we call our tech metals, or our lithium prospectivity. So they're the three kind of exploration approaches. We have a very large footprint in northeast Victoria, which we regard as being one of the most highly prospective, underexplored areas in the entire country. We have the Macquarie Arc rocks, which extend all the way from Cobar down through New South Wales into Victoria, and we are sitting on those. They have been enormously rewarding for explorers and miners over the years, and of course that's where the Cadia mine sits, on the Lachlan Fold Belt. So we are the Lachlan Fold Belt South in a way, and I'm not trying to capitalise on recent popularity of Lachlan Fold Belt, but that is a fact. You know, the Lachlan Fold Belt doesn't necessarily recognise state borders. So it goes deep into Victoria and out towards the coast. So large, about 6,000 square kilometres of ground, split between northeastern Gippsland, all across to Wodonga and down to a township called Bright. And we have a slightly black sheep project out in more central Victoria near a township called Rushworth. And that's a orogenic gold. It's quite different to the gold deposits that we pursue or that we explore for up in the northeast. It's more nuggety, more Ballarat Bendigo style. It's located on the old historic Rushworth goldfield. So we've got a lot of good neighbours there, and it's a very interesting project. We did a bit of drilling on there late last year, we did a RAB program, and that definitely requires some follow-up. But we're very focused at the moment on two particular orogenic gold, orogenic and porphyry gold projects called Granite Flat and Buckland. Buckland's down south near Bright. The Granite Flat project's near a town called the near Mitta, sorry, which is on the Mitta River in the Mitta Valley.
And those two, the Granite Flat and the Buckland, specifically, can you just take investors, what has happened in the last year that's made you excited, and what should we look for in the next 12 months?
Yeah, well, they are the two areas of intense focus for us, Granite Flat and Buckland. We have completed, phase 1 drilling on Granite Flat and Buckland over the last 9 months. We've got some very, very good drilling results out of both projects. Right at this stage, as a result of permitting and I won't say delays, but just processes around permitting for exploration, whatever, we are solely focused on Granite Flat. So we'll get to Buckland probably later this year with some more drilling. Earlier on this year, actually, we purchased our own diamond drill rig too, which is great. That allows us to keep producing drill results and not be at the behest of the market, where the cost of drilling has gone through the roof in the last probably 2 years. So
to mention getting a rig in the first place.
Yeah, well, it's a very small footprint rig. It has a capacity to drill quite deep, down around 600. And that suits us with our porphyry exploration. You want to be drilling deep into porphyries. But yeah, Granite Flat is the main focus right now. We've just completed a geophysical program over quite a large area. I think we did 16 kilometres of lines on that. We're waiting for the interpretation back on that. So all the data has been acquired. We're waiting for the interpretation on that. That should be fairly soon. Other work that we are doing there at the moment is a large soil sampling program across an area 3 kilometres by 2. That's every 25 metres. You're picking up soil samples. We're trying to get that soil sample and overlay it with the geophysical interpretations that we get back, looking for more specific targets. Not that we're short of them down at Granite Flat. There is a host of targets there. Granite Flat's got a really interesting history. It was drilled back in the late 80s and early 90s by CRA, who are now Rio Tinto, of course, and Perseverance, who I think went from Granite Flat over to Fosterville. And I think from Fosterville, I'm not sure where they went, but I bet they wish they were still there.
I was going to say, you don't need to go anywhere else.
Yeah, that's right. So there was an extensive drilling program at Granite Flat, and luckily for us, a more extensive drill pad building exercise. And so we're down there now drilling off pads that were created back in the early 90s. And that makes it a heck of a lot more efficient for us. It means we don't have to meet our vegetation offset obligations. It's classed as low impact. So last year, or the last quarter last year, we did an extensive program at Granite Flat, RAB drilling program, really just a first phase off the back of a lot of the historic drilling, which we have since converted, digitized, and put it into micromine we use for getting some 3D on the drilling, historic drilling and what have you. So that program that we did last year produced some phenomenal results. Now, I'm going off the top of my head, but we put down 42 odd holes, all of which carried some mineralization.
Yes.
33 of which carried significant mineralization. And again, you're stretching my memory, but I think it was 8 or 9 holes were mineralized throughout. It was only down to 50 meters. I think 54 meters was the deepest we got there. And we got some great hits. I think the best gold hit that we had was 19 meters at 9.39 grams. And that was down structure for sure. But the fact is that it carried high grade over a long intersection. Now we had, I think, 40 odd meters, and I was going to say, don't quote me on that, but I am quoting at the moment. I think it was 40 meters at 0.45 copper. So our model, if you like, on Granite Flat is that it's two distinct styles of deposit. One is orogenic gold. The other is a copper gold porphyry. So we're seeing a lot of evidence, which gives us a very high degree of confidence that we are dealing with a porphyry intrusion at Granite Flat.
Right. And also, and as you alluded to before, you're doing a lot of work to get targets. Should we be looking for some drilling to come up over the next 12 months?
Yeah, look, we have just completed another 1,000 meters of RC. I think it was 951 meters. We are still getting results back from that program. Of that 1,000 meters, we have another 2,500 meters to drill to finish that first phase. We should have an RC rig on site, an appropriate RC rig. We're somewhat constrained by the terrain and the topography, and there's only certain types of rigs you can get in there. You can't just drive a truck up. We've tried that and it doesn't work. So we're looking for a small track-based RC rig, and I think we've got our hands on one, which will be coming in at the end of September. But yeah, I'd say it'd be a few more weeks, and hopefully we'll be announcing some more results on the 1,000 odd meters of RC that we drilled. We also have our diamond rig drilling there at the moment. We haven't produced a heck of a lot since I think we've done like 400 or 500 meters of diamond. All the geos prefer diamond to RC, particularly on a structure like that, because you can get a much better sense of orientation below surface. So there's a lot going on, and I think the geophysical program, the IP and the MT that we recently completed, that's going to add a lot to our knowledge. It's also going to help us enormously with targeting the next drill testing. Excellent. So yeah.
And then, making a sharp turn, we've spoken about the gold, but DART mining certainly has a lot more than gold. You have lithium and other really exciting metals that are in very, very short supply. Can you just talk about them, please?
Absolutely. Look, DART was lucky enough in 2016, we discovered the first lithium mineralization of significance on the east coast of Australia. And it's we've defined the area, the target area, as the Dorchap dike swarm. So these are pegmatite dikes. They're the LCT type, which is the right chemistry. It's the lithium, cesium, tantalum type pegmatites, which is what you want. We know that they're carrying grade. We've put a couple of very shallow holes into two of the dikes, which didn't turn up anything terribly exciting, but we know that these dikes zone. So, you can be 1 centimetre off. But on the same dike, for example, we've channel sampled across about 6 metres, and we've had in spodumene, and we've had like 1.2, 1.3% lithium oxide. I think the biggest hit we've had down there is about 1.72% lithium oxide, which I think that was from a rock chip. But the fascinating thing about our lithium prospectivity is also, and this is, I guess, maybe not quite so much commercially significant, but from a geological point of view, we've identified so far 4 different lithium minerals. So we've got the petalite, the spodumene, lepidolite, and amblygonite, all of which are lithium minerals, both primary and secondary. So that's interesting because it would seem that you've got a meeting point or an intersection different fluids that are carrying the minerals, and that on its own is really quite rare. But it goes to the fact, as I said earlier on, that Dart's ground, we are sitting on, we're not just a sort of historic goldfield explorer. There is a tremendous amount of mineralized ground beneath our footprint up in the northeast of Victoria.
Right. And what will you do there? Because obviously it is incredibly exciting. As we all know, the lithium market is incredibly hot right now. What would be your next steps there over, call it, the next 12 months?
Well, we try to plan about 2 years ahead in terms of activities, and we've got quite an extensive program in our lithium, or in our, I guess internally we refer to as tech metals, but it's predominantly lithium. There are other elements that we've had some big hits on, like niobium. We've had some really good hits on cesium and tantalum. Interestingly, where we're working at the moment, the area was explored and assayed. A lot of these dikes were assayed, and a lot of them were mapped by BHP in the mid-80s, which was probably the last work that BHP did in the state of Victoria, which is funny given that it's headquartered there. But so there's a bunch of, the pegmatites carry a lot of stuff apart from just the lithium. There are historic tin fields up in our part of the world, and we recently put an application over the old Walwa tin mine. The Walwa tin mine was operating up till about 1975. We've taken some chips off that. We've got a lot more work to do there, of course, and that's all part of this program, as I said, that we've got planned over the next couple of years. But over the next 6 months, we've got some specific lithium drilling programs lined up, and we'll use our diamond rig so we can get orientation and all the rest of it, and just sit there drilling through a couple of these pegmatites. Another big development in that space for us has been a very extensive LiDAR program that we carried out earlier this year.
Yes.
And for your listeners who are familiar with LiDAR, you'll understand exactly where I'm coming from. But for those that are not familiar with it, what it does is basically map the ground, the surface of the ground, to within a plus or minus 5 centimetre accuracy. And given that the area that we operate in is hugely vegetated, we have an enormous, we're all in state forest, by the way. We're not on private land. 99.9% of our ground is all in state forest or crown land, which is a benefit too, I think. Right. But the LiDAR program has had an enormous impact on our whole strategy around the exploration for lithium, particularly because it's identified outcrops that we didn't even know existed before. So there's a spodumene dike that we refer to internally as the Eagle dike, and that's produced some really great chip samples, channel samples in the past. But we've discovered from the LiDAR, would you believe, an additional 200 to 300 metres of extension of this dike. And we had it mapped at around 200 or 300 metres on its own. We've discovered this extension to it. So that, combined with additional pegmatites, or they appear to be pegmatites, they need ground truthing, and we'll do that. And the other enormous benefit is discovering a whole bunch of drill pads and things, which I mentioned earlier, down at Granite Flat. This LiDAR program showed up all these drill pads and access tracks. So it's made our life a lot easier going forward.
Yeah, no, it sounds like, the next 12 months between your lithium and your gold, you're certainly going to be producing a lot of results for the market. James, do you have any closing remarks for the audience?
Look, I think, we all know that it costs money to explore. We're going to need some money, I suspect that we are not that far away of a reasonably significant discovery. I think it could be in Granite Flat. Maybe it's at Buckland. We didn't even talk about Buckland, but that's an extraordinary gold project on its own. It's a company maker, potentially, on its own. And I'd encourage any of you people watching to go and have a look at our releases historically, going back a couple of years. we do these primers, and the primers are designed to orientate investors to specific projects. The most recent one we did actually was on our strategic metals, including the lithium, which is only a few weeks ago.
Yeah, thank you very much, James. And investors, we'll make sure to put links to that into the video so everybody can find it. James, it sounds like an incredibly exciting time at DART. As I said in the introduction, you're both offensive and defensive with gold and with lithium and the other metals. Be well and definitely stay in touch.
Thank you very much, Greg. Great to be here.